3 days later, this incident occurred. As well as many of you have already reported, the perception of Joseph Jr. was that he was being cut out of the will and was going to be displaced without a place to go. He did have past mental issues, psychological issues that were reported to us that we still have not confirmed. Because of that perception, he decided that day to get a loaded Mossberg shotgun, 12 gauge, approached them in the rear area of the house, and from the kitchen fired 12 shots, striking all 4 of them.
This story right here is horrific. This story actually took place in Syosset, Long Island. That is in New York City, for those who's not aware. Imagine a woman working so hard in her life, only to eventually leave her kids with a will where they're gonna get a house and they're gonna split it. However, one of the kids were left out of the will. Guess what he decided to do? He decided to unalive everyone, including himself. So as I said, the story is horrific. Sit back and react with your boy. One thing I want to say, rest in peace to the families and the lives lost, all right? With that being said, remember, we need unity. All right? Together we stand, united we fall. Let's see how this is about to play out.
New details about a horrific tragedy on Long Island. 5 members of the same family in an apparent murder. Hello, I'm Gus Rosendale. That tragedy has a Long Island neighborhood in complete shock. 5 people dead yesterday after gathering to mourn the loss of a mother, and police are right now giving us an update on the investigation in Mineola. We go there now live.
And then I'm going to turn it over to Captain Fitzpatrick to go over the details. 41 years, that is probably one of the most horrific scenes I've ever seen. Walking into that back room of that house where these 4 victims lie after being multiple times. And also the individual, the shooter, being on the front lawn also committed. I contacted the county executive immediately, gave him the update, and his concern for the family, of course, was first. And then, of course, asking about our officers. Are they okay? Last night, our officers sat and met with our peer support group to make sure that they can handle what they just went through.
One thing I want to tell you, right? Syosset is not a cheap neighborhood. In order for you to live in Syosset, you got to come from some type of money that is not for the broke people. You understand? With that being said, that is not the typical crime that would actually take place in that neighborhood. That was once in a lifetime right there.
There was talk in that community about the distress of this shooter that had decided he did not want to leave his residence after his mom died. There was talk in the community in the past that if you hear shots fired, don't call the police. It'll be too late.
Well, for him to say that, if anything, the family was the first people who should have came and said something. They're the ones who should have saw any signs before people outside. If anything, the people outside didn't take it serious because 1, they wanted nothing to do with it. 2, they probably didn't believe in it. You understand what I'm saying? But however, the family, they should have brought that up to the authorities, if you ask me.
Right now, I'm going to turn it over to Detective Captain Steve Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Commissioner. As the Commissioner said yesterday, we're updating you about the fatal Syosset horrific shooting. So yesterday, at approximately 11:58 hours, 9/11 received a phone call for shots fired, male on the front lawn. That address is 76 Court in Syosset. That subject has been identified as Joseph DeLucia, D-E-L-U-C-I-A. He's a junior. He was 59 years of age. He was born 4/12/1965 and lived at that address. Officers found him with to his chest. He was pronounced at the scene. Officers then went into the house to clear the house and make sure if anybody else was injured. Inside, as the Commissioner said, in the rear den area, 4 individuals were found with multiple wounds that were expired.
Could you believe that all of this happened simply because he was left out the will? He was a super sore loser. All he was missing was a cape. How he saw it was, if I can't have it, nobody can have it. Not only nobody can have it, none of us need to be here. Mind you, they're all related. They're all related.
Those victims have now been identified as the siblings and niece of the subject, Joseph. They are Joanne Kearns, K-E-A-R-N-S. She's 69 years old. She lived in Tampa, Florida. Frank DeLucia, Delucia, 64 years old. He was from Durham, North Carolina. Tina Hammond, Hammond, 64, from East Patchogue. And her daughter, Victoria Hammond, 30 years old, also from East Patchogue. When officers arrived and found those victims, they immediately called EMS. EMS came, pronounced those individuals at scene. All of these siblings were the children of Joseph DeLucia Sr. and Teresa DeLucia. Teresa passed away on August 19th of this year, and her funeral was the 23rd.
Makes you want to think why his mother left him out the will, right? That shows a lot about his character right there.
3 days later, this incident occurred. As well as many of you have already reported, the perception of Joseph Jr. was that he was being cut out of the will and was going to be displaced without a place to go. He did have past mental issues, psychological issues that were reported to us that we still have not confirmed. Because of that perception, he decided that day to get a loaded Mossberg shotgun, 12 gauge, approached them in the rear area of the house, and from the kitchen fired 12 shots, striking all 4 of them multiple times. He then took the weapon, went out onto the front lawn, was shouting indiscriminately about what had happened. A neighbor heard him doing this, called 911, and that was our 911 caller. He then to the chest. This is the weapon he used. It's a pump action shotgun. It was recovered at the scene.
I wonder how he purchased that right there. Well, guess what? In North Carolina, they probably didn't care.
When this happened, they arrived to meet the realtor, as you all are aware of. They brought Starbucks. They were assembled in the den area. The brother had stayed behind. There were 13 overall shots, 12 to the victims, 1 to the subject. There's only 1 prior call to this house for a well check of him. That person had called in 2022. He was not displaying any signs of anything that we would take action to take him against his will, that he was dangerous to himself or others at that time.
I mean, if you ask me, I don't think he was really that crazy. It seems like he knew right from wrong. If anything, this seems like a personal vendetta. He was gonna do this regardless of the fact. The house was just a tipping point. Maybe that was just a catalyst. It seems like this was already on his mind.
So, unconfirmed, but neighbors have reported that he has made statements in the past that if you hear gunshots, don't bother calling 911, it's going to be too late.
See, that right there is disturbing now. If someone's saying something like that about me or my household, and you know me, and they're telling you this, and you're not coming back to tell me so I can at least reevaluate my situation, what kind of friend is that? It seems like the neighborhood just allowed this to go down too at the same time, if they had that kind of information. Something don't really seem right to me right there. Something seemed all the way off.
At first I heard it was, I'm thinking that's pretty bad, and then I heard 4 people, and then it was something you don't hear very often, let alone in your own town, so it was pretty shocking.
Yeah, that's shocking right there. May the family rest in peace. Hopefully they get some closure on this right here, and maybe they got some next of kin that they can give this down to. Otherwise, this is just a complete total loss, and the mother worked hard for no reason. Motive revealed in horrifying Long Island as cops ID as former EMT Joseph DeLucia Jr., who slaughtered relatives after mom's death. Now check this out. Remember, they said earlier he said that he was a disturbed individual. How is he working, or how is he a former EMT with this kind of delusions, right? I don't understand how that's possible, but y'all gave him that job.